If you have these in your house or your car, there's a chance that you have a toddler in your life and you are going to love this tutorial. Today, I'm going to show you how to take one beach towel and turn it into one adorable towel poncho that will fit a toddler. You can make them bigger, but you're going to need more than one beach towel. And since I have a almost 2.5-year-old great nephew, I'm going to focus on toddler size today. Let's start with what we need. You need a beach towel. I got this one at Walmart. It is 60 by 30. You can use other sizes, but you might need to adjust the size of the overall poncho. Then you're going to need pins or clips, a rotary cutter, a ruler, and your cutting mat, of course, sewing machine and thread. No iron required for this project, so it is a little bit easier. First thing we're going to do is we're going to find the short ends of the towel. And I'm going to cut this tag off because this is going to be part of the hood. I'm going to fold it in half because we are going to cut off 10.5 inches from one end, the short end, not the long end. And that is what we are going to use to make our hood. So 10.5 inches is right in between those two stripes. I'm going to make sure they're lined up, and I am just going to cut that off. This is going to be the hood. I'm going to need to cut again. I'm going to put that aside for now. And now this is going to be the poncho. This is the other short end. It's already finished. The sides are finished. So we only have one of the 4 sides that is going to be a fraying mess if we don't do anything to it. Another thing I wanted to tell you was I tried this using straight and zigzag stitching, and it was a little bit of a nightmare. So I have decided we are going to do some French seams. Don't be scared by it. It is going to be nice and easy. It's all straight stitching, and it's going to encase all these raw edges beautifully. Now, the first thing I'm doing is I'm just rolling up this raw edge, just about 1/2 inch to 1 inch. I'm not measuring. I'm just kind of folding once, folding twice to get all that frayed raw edge on the inside. And then we're going to just sew straight down so that all 4 sides of our main towel are hemmed. You will definitely want to use a walking foot for this project because sewing through not only how thick this is, but because of the texture of the towel, it really works your sewing machine a little bit too hard without a walking foot. All right, so we have that all clipped. That is ready to hem. Now let's get the hood ready so we can sew both of those pieces at the same time. So just like the bigger part of the towel, this one has 3 finished edges, and this is going to be the part that is going to be the front of the hood. So this will go around the face. This is way too big of a hood for a toddler. It's way, way too wide. So we are going to trim it from 30 inches to 20 inches. I'm just going to cut off one side so I can decide based on the design which side I like better. So my hood can either be from here and have mostly this lighter color, or it can be from here and it would stop here with more of this teal color. And I kind of like the teal color better, so that is where I'm going to cut. Now this is just extra. And if you wanted to do something fun with it, you could turn it into a washcloth. You would just take a square of fabric and right sides together, sew it together, turn it right side out, trim around the edge. You'll have cotton on one side and the towel on the other side. That might just be another video. But for now, I'm going to save this to use as a leader fabric as we are sewing these other things together. So back to our hood section. We have 2 finished sides and 2 raw fall apart linty sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold this in half. And we're going to fold it in half wrong sides together because we're going to be doing the back seam of the hood. So this is where the sweet little face is going to be, right, in the front. And this is going to be the back. So we're going to do a French seam to keep all this stuff inside and not fraying and not have to use our zigzag stitch. So wrong sides together, we're just going to clip and we're going to sew that. And then I'm going to show you how we're going to make that a French seam that will be comfortable for the child and nice and easy for you. Let's head to the sewing machine. Now we're going to sew down the back of the hood with the wrong sides together. And you'll notice it is quite thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that little extra piece and I'm going to have that folded in half. So now we have the same thickness. That's going to keep our presser foot even and not tilted like this when it gets started. It's going to help your machine get started much, much easier. So I'm going to put that little extra towel under my foot and make sure it is covering those feed dogs. And then I'm going to put this one butted right up against it. and we're going to start sewing. You can start sewing on this because you can either pull that out or just cut it off. But then when you get onto your actual hood, you're going to want to go forward and backwards, and make sure you're using a walking foot, and you're going to sew down here with a 1/4 inch seam. Now I'm just going to cut that leader fabric off the back because we don't need that anymore, at least not right now. I'm not going to take my hood off yet. I'm going to use that, just like a leader fabric, for hemming the bottom of the main towel. Now, I think I mentioned this, but make sure when you're folding this, you're folding to the wrong side. You can tell that this is the back and this is the front, both by the way the towel looks and also the way the edge looks. Now, this one is extra fat because it has that trim. So we are going to have to use your scissors to kind of help get that started. Make sure you do not use your fingers because we don't want any emergency room visits because of a poncho. Let me know in the comments who you're going to make this for and where they might use it. Is this for summer pool fun, heading to the beach, family reunion? What are you going to do, and how many do you think you will make? Now that we have that hemmed, I'm going to leave that in to use as a leader fabric again. And now we are going to make the French seam on the hood. So we have this sewn. This is the right side of the hood. We're now going to turn it inside out. And I'm going to clip along where that seam is. We're going to make sure that seam line is really pushed out and consistent. So usually I will just put it down and kind of roll with my fingers because we want that seam line right there. We don't want it at an angle or anything like that, because what we're going to do next is we're just going to go back and we're going to sew down about 1/2 inch from the edge, and that will encapsulate the raw edges inside the hood, never to be seen again. Now I have the hemmed edge, so all 4 sides of the big towel are finished and hemmed, 3 by the manufacturer, thank you very much, and 1 by me. Now let's turn this hood right side out again. And as you can see, it's got a nice finish here. This just has a folded over. All the raw edges are on the inside, so it's not going to fray. The only frayed, open, raw area, whatever you want to call it, that we have left is this one side. But we're going to get rid of that when we sew the hood onto the towel. And here is where I had my big mix-ups with that shark towel, and I got it all wrong. So I'm going to make sure that is not going to happen to you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our towel and we're going to fold it in half, matching that hem that we made with the other hem, so matching the short ends of the towel. So this fold line, there are the ends, that is going to be the shoulder line of the poncho. So now we somehow need to hook the hood in here, right? So we're going to need to cut. Now, pay very close attention, because if you get a little overconfident, you might do what I did, but I'm going to save you from that fate. Now we need to find the center of this towel. Now they say this towel is 30 inches wide, but it might not be exactly. So I'm just going to take it, I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to find the center of the center. I'm going to just put a little clip in there. So now I know that's the center on the shoulder line. Now I'm going to lay the hood down, so that the opening where the cute little face goes, that's already finished, is towards me, down towards the hemmed edge, and the sewn part of the hood is parallel with the folded part of the towel. Okay, you with me so far? Now, here's where I made my mistake. I drew and cut a line this long in both the front and the back. So then the opening was twice as long as it needed to be, and it was a disaster, and I was very unhappy. So we're not going to do that. We are going to fold this in half. I'm going to take a heat erasable pen, and I'm just going to make a little mark where that is, okay? Right parallel or right down from this point. Now I'm going to take my ruler, I'm going to move my clip. I'm going to make sure it's parallel with that shoulder line, and I'm going to draw to there. Doing it halfway means that half of the hood will be sewn to the part that goes over the front of the shoulders, and half will be to the back. It's going to be much more comfortable for the child and not have a ton of extra. I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to go old school, and I'm going to use scissors. We're going to cut through both layers this distance. Okay, so I cut right to there. Now I'm going to take just the front, not the back, just the front, and I'm going to cut like 2 to 3 more inches. That is basically going to give a little bit of a V below the hood that's going to give them a little bit more room to get their heads in and out of there. You just want to make sure you're only cutting that extra amount. So this one's cut to here, this one's cut to here on the front of your towel. Now we're going to do a French seam on this too. It sounds crazy, but I promise it is not that hard. This is the back. So when I open it up, the back is the top of my cut. And now I'm going to find the back where that seam is. So don't go based on our French seam, but go based on the actual seam of the hood. And we're doing this wrong sides together. Okay, I had to flip that around. So we're matching the end of the slit with that seam. And again, matching wrong sides together. Now I'm just going to clip and match the edge. So match the edge of the hood with the edge of this cut. And I'm going to do quite a few clips, or you can also use pins, just to make sure it all stays lined up as we sew. I'm going to do this side first. And it's not going to go all the way to the other cut because remember, we cut a little bit extra. I'm going to show you what to do with that in a minute. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So just lining up the raw edge with the raw edge. This side you can't lay flat because obviously this is a hood. So it's starting to take on a hood shape as we are pinning or clipping the second side. And once you make one of these, they make so much more sense. The first one you might be scratching your head and rewinding and watching little parts of the video again. Totally normal. I totally second guessed myself. And as I told you, the first one I made a disaster of. So don't feel bad if it's a little confusing at first. And if it's not, awesome. We're just going to leave this section as is for right now. We're going to deal with that when we do the second part of the French seam connecting the hood to the towel. So back to the sewing machine. As you're sewing the hood to the towel, just make sure you're moving slowly. You're stopping when you take out your clips or pins and making sure that everything stays flat. You don't want one of these to kind of fold up and get bunched as you go. We want to make sure that you're just sewing 2 layers and no little folds. Now, if you want to pull up the bobbin thread, you can, but it isn't really necessary because everything that we sew right now is going to be encapsulated when we do the French seam. So I'm just going to go forward and back, not worry if it ends up making a little bit of a bird's nest. No one is ever going to see it. And then just twist and flatten your fabrics as you move around the hood. This is one of those projects where you are going to want to clean under your needle plate and your bobbin area if that is top loading, because you will end up with some of the towel fuzz down in there. You can see how thick it's getting here because we're right on the French seam of the hood. So I am going to use my scissors and I'm going to go slowly just to help press that down and help that foot get up where it needs to be. All right, we're over the hump. Moving right along. Now it is time to French seam our hood and finish this edge. Now, there are 2 ways to finish this edge. You could put double fold bias tape on there, which you could actually do all the way around, but I just want to keep it simple and the fewest materials needed. So we are just going to French seam where the hood is, and we're going to fold and sew that. We're just like we did the French seam for the back of the hood. We're going to put these right sides together. And we're going to make sure we really have that seam on the very edge, and we're going to clip. Now, if you have a serger, you might want to just do this with a serger. I don't. I tried it with the zigzag on my machine, and I found that this was just easier. The zigzag kept not wanting to go as well. And this way I didn't have to change my foot either. I can just leave my 1/4 inch straight stitch foot on there and move right along. Now here, where we're going over this French seam, that's going to be another fat part. But we did it before, we can do it again. Just take your time with this step, because if you don't get this folded pretty accurately, you're going to have some raw edge sticking out when you're done, which if that happens, no biggie, you can just come through and sew this stitch again a little bit further from the edge, but hopefully we can just get this right the first time. All right, so our hood that we just sewed is clipped. Now we just have this section. You can use clips or pins for this too. So basically I'm just going to fold that over just like we did with that hem on the bottom of the big part, but this is just going to be very small. So fold it and fold it again. We just want to get that raw edge under there. And I kind of clip these at an angle And right at the point, we can't really fold. I guess you could fold and fold, but I'm just going to be sewing straight across a few times because that could be a pressure point when they're putting their heads in and out of there, and we want to make sure it doesn't rip or fray. So that is all clipped up, and it is time to head back to the sewing machine. Now we're just going to sew all the way around, a 1/2 inch where we sewed the hood on, and then just really close to the edge on this part that is the front that we folded. It's going to be a little bit easier to start up where you're doing the 1/2 inch and then do that all in one piece. And you can feel as you're sewing, like I can feel that the edge of that seam is right there. So you just want to make sure your needle is to the inside so that it's going to encapsulate all of that. And I am going to lift my bobbin thread on this one so I don't get any kinds of bird's nest. I'm going to hold that thread, put the needle down and up, give it a little tug, grab my tweezers, pull that bobbin thread out, put it under the foot, pull it back, and I'm going to go forward and back a few stitches to get that knotted. And now, just like when we sewed the hood to the towel the first time, you're just going to move slowly, make sure everything is staying nice and flat. Now we're getting to this really big knot. Be really careful. Don't be tempted to put your fingers, because this is when you would really be able to get that needle right through your nail. Nobody wants that. So I'm going to push with this finger over here, well to the left of my presser foot, and then I'm just going to use my scissors to push that down and help push that through. And just move really slowly so I don't break the thread or the needle. There we go, we made it. Now we're getting to the very end of the hood, which is right there. And then this is our folded cut section. So I'm going to just angle over here to get onto that folded section. And here is where the point is. So I'm just going to try and get my towel to lay nice and flat until that section. Got a little stuck on that big part. Again, use my scissors so my fingers aren't in there. And then when I get to that point, I'm just going to move the towel. We are going to go over this again from the outside, but this is just our preliminary, get everything sewn down. I have to figure, okay, now thankfully I left my threads because I was like, where did I start? Okay, so I started right at that stripe. So now we're going to angle and go back up onto the hood. Okay, so that is all sewn, but that is still a bit of a weak spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this right side out. So you can see kind of the fuzzier part of the inside of the towel becomes a little bit of an accent. So now I'm just going to sew down there again, and I'm going to go back and forth across this point a few times just to give this a little bit of added stability. If you wanted to, you could put like a little piece of ribbon in here to give it more strength. We just don't want that to break, but I believe sewing will work. I'll let you know if it breaks. I'm hoping not. But like I said, I'm trying to keep this simple and to as few materials as possible. Towel, thread, sewing machine. Okay, so now you can kind of see if I'm going to pick up the foot and kind of push this together. Because remember, that cut area used to just be the towel together. It wasn't spread out. It was just like that. So we want to pivot, and we just want to give it some stability sewn close together across the front. Hopefully that's enough. I think it will be. All right, now all we need to do is just cut a couple of threads and it's done. Like I said before, once you do this once, these are quite simple. I think this could be a great thing to sew and sell. Could make it for your whole family, make it for cousins, for a family reunion. It could be a great gift. Give it any time of year. Maybe you're having the grandkids come for the summer. You could make them cute little towels. You could put monograms on it. You could put a patch on it. So many ways that you could make these personalized. That's it. It's done. Now we have a cute little hood sewn onto the towel that's folded over, and now all it needs is a cute little toddler body to put in there and keep warm. Whatever kind of towel or colors or project you do, I hope you have fun. If you post them on social media, I would love to see, so be sure to tag me and leave a comment and let me know who you're going to make this for first. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you do not miss a tutorial, And you can also subscribe to my newsletter, where I share new ideas, new videos, tips, tricks for easy sewing projects, quilting, and more. Happy sewing!